Jerry.
Yeah. All right. He ain't done, but he ain't moved. Get closer. You acting like you used to play sports or something. Come on, Henry. Come on, man. We're waiting for you now.
Three-time Super Bowl champion.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our next panel. This is Silver and Black Dynasty. And as we said, this is a special group. They played in some of the greatest games, not only played in Raider history, but in the history of the NFL. And I'm going to start with Henry Lawrence. And let's get a microphone for Henry, because Henry won 3 Super Bowls. How about that? 3-time Super Bowl champ. And there you go.
You're sitting on it. That was a lineman, man.
Hey, Henry, when people ask you about that, you got 3 rings, 3 Super Bowls in the greatest games. I'm going to begin with your legacy of playing that much great winning percentage football. You're one of the greatest winning percentage players in the history of the NFL. How does that feel?
Well, I'm a little pissed about it, because we should have won more.
Yeah.
But it's a great feeling, though. With playing, I agree with Sir Davis or Al that I got to play in some of the greatest games with some of the greatest players. And you can't replace that. You can't even explain. And some of the craziest players, too. We had some nuts on our team. Not me, though.
Jeff, what about you? I've known you since I started in '98, and you're an ambassador to this organization. It feels like every big moment that you played in those big games stays with you today.
Yes, it does. You know, we played in the Super Bowl, and Killer was right. We should have won more. You know, I got to my first year in '77. We go to Denver, and we'd already beat the Cowboys that year. And we go to Denver, and we're playing, and the running back, he gets hit by Jack Taylor. He fumbled the ball on the 1. We get the ball, we get ready to run it. The coach come out there and said, no. The guy, the whistle blew, and no, it's not a fumble. And the coaches and the referees overturned it.
The Rob Lytle fumble.
The Rob Lytle fumble. But that was a fumble all the way. and they took that game away from us. So they go on to play in the Super Bowl, lose to the Cowboys, and we beat them. We should have went to that Super Bowl in '77 with my man Kinlaw.
Yes,
I don't want to get into the tuck rule, but the Rob Lyle fumble was right there. Those are two Super Bowls that were stolen.
Stolen. And John Madden told us, he said, don't ever let the refs control the game. You got to win decisively. And we went in those two Super Bowls, our Super Bowls we won in '83 and '81, decisively.
Kenny, and there was also before, when you think back in the day, there was also the Immaculate Deception. So we're talking about a team that you won two Super Bowls with, as we mentioned last night, could have had 5 or 6 in a small window. And you can see now as the Patriots and the Chiefs over the last 20 years accumulated all of those championships. Kenny, the ones that got away, how do you feel about those today? Do you think about those, or it's all about the wins?
You know, the one that got away for us was in '85. 1985, we had a great offense, we had a great defense, but we let New England come in and just kick our ass. And you know what? Walking out of that stadium, walking out of the Coliseum that day was one of the most miserable days of my life because of that. Because we should have been the world champions that year. We wanted to go back and play Chicago again. Chicago kicked our butt. I mean, you guys, that 55 defense, I tell you what, I was glad when we got the hell out of Chicago. Because it was, you know, you knocked out Plunkett, you knocked out Wilson, you knocked out Hummer, and we were getting ready to put Ray Guy in as quarterback.
And I Plunkett.
Yeah.
You guys say, yeah, no.
Yeah. And he said, no. And I think it was Mark Wilson came hobbling back out there on the field. But if we'd have had that chance, I thought we would have.
Isn't it true that when you look back at that game, that's considered the most violent game ever played?
Oh,
Frank Hawkins had that game on a loop in his bar.
Yeah.
That I heard. So everyone would see that. The most violent game. Jerry, you played before you came to the Raiders and the Eagles and all your career. What was one of the great shining moments for you where you just knew you were locked in and you're playing in a big game and it was you kind of finding your zone? What was that about?
You guys are wondering why these Super Bowl champions over here rub me on my shoulders. Because Super Bowl 15, I was on the other team. I was on the Philadelphia Eagles, and you know the love that we all have for each other is just unbelievable. You know, when I came to the Raiders from the Eagles, I showed up in the locker room and I'm getting taped. First day, getting ready to go out to practice, everybody's in there, and I had my ring on and stuff like that. And Rod Martin comes in, and loud as could be, he said, "Jerry Robinson, let everybody see what that second place ring looks like." So I took the ring and spun it around like a wedding band, and I've never worn it. Well, I ain't wearing it now. I would never wear it around these guys. My experience, with the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, I heard Willie talking about Walter Payton, and I remember my rookie year playing against Walter Payton. It was one of those big highlight things where you don't really sleep well the night before the game because you got to deal with sweetness and this kind of stuff. So we're playing against him. And, you know, Walter catches the pass, and I tackle Walter. Walter's on the bottom of the pile, and I'm on top of Walter. Walter was like 4 other people on top of us. And all of a sudden, I feel this sharp pain, like somebody took a needle and just stuck it right in my ass. I'm like, what the fuck? And Walter's like, get off me, Jerry, get off me, Jerry. He's pinching me with the, you know, that little itty bitty pinch? He's pinching my ass. I mean, he's got a hold of my
sound like that, Jerry? Does it really sound like that?
Higher pitch than that. Get off me, Jerry, get off me, Jerry. He's pinching my ass. I said, is that why they call you sweetness? and then that year, at the end of the year, you know, they have the ESPY awards now, whatever they're called. Well, we didn't have that back in the day. So anyway, I made NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year, and we went to Washington for this, you know, celebration and shit. So I'm in the elevator, Walter's in the elevator, the other guy's in the elevator. Elevator goes down to the bottom. I walk off the elevator. Walter pinches my ass again. Come on, sweetness.
Reggie, Super Bowl 15 and 18. We touched on this when you got to New Orleans. What were the rules What was the curfew? Because we heard Philly was a little tight. They weren't allowed really to do much that week. What were the rules coming into that Super Bowl in New Orleans, considering Bourbon Street is right there at your doorstep?
Well, we was there, 2 weeks before the game? A week. All right. These guys, they had curfew, lockdown curfew, right? We had rental cars. The first week was no curfew. No curfew at all. So everybody hanging out, having a good time. So my buddy, my right side over there, Mr. Matuzak, decided he wants to go to Bourbon Street. So Two's on, he cruising on Bourbon Street. So his idea, he missed curfew. He said, this is excuse. Well, the one I know about. The reason he was out on Bourbon Street after curfew, because he wanted to make sure all the younger guys was in their room.
So the rest was history. You guys were just, Kenny, you told me you were so confident going into that preparation, but again, played Philly early in the year, and you just felt like you had the team, you were peaking at the right time.
I mean, when we played Philadelphia in Philadelphia, they really dominated. I mean, they do dominate. I think these guys had like 10 sacks.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, we were like 14-10. I think 14-7, 14-10. It was a very close game. But they dominated, and we felt like when it came time, we got to the Super Bowl and we saw that it was the Philadelphia Eagles, we felt good about that. We felt really good about it because we've already played them. They beat us once. Because in the conference game, you play the Denver Broncos twice, you play the Seahawks twice, you play Kansas City twice. You're going to split one. You're going to split one, or you're going to, very rarely are you going to lose both games. And this is a team that we played once, and we got a chance to play them again. So let's dominate.
Killer, back there on the far end, before I get to the other gentleman, you played in front of 110,000 people in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. You're trying to win all those years, coming up short. Then you end up winning the first Super Bowl, Super Bowl 11. How big of a relief was that for you after all the times you were right there and just came up short?
Is y'all got time?
I think so. I think we're good on time.
Time, Killer. What time in the world? I think that, I'm still bitter, but I had the opportunity to play in 4 straight AFC championship games. And the year before, it was 5 straight. And we can come up with all kind of theories and all kind of things, but I sit there and I look at it and I said, Ray Charles could have been sitting up in the stand in some instance and say, hey, dummy, run one over to the right over there. Ain't nobody over there. So I got my opinion. I got my opinion about Chicago too. When we played Chicago, we had 13 sacks. I'm the only lineman that didn't have a sack.
All right now.
The only lineman. But we went in at halftime. We back there, they knocked out 3 quarterbacks. And Rick, I said, oh, hell to the no, I'm not going in there. We going in halftime. I went ballistic on Flores. The whole guy, I threw chairs out, cussed them out, mother so-and-so. I did. I just run the goddamn ball. We were running the ball. We had a great running game. We go out the second half. We run the football. We round it up there. We score. Bam. I said, I guess it's, now we know we can run. We're going to go back and pass. So we go in on Monday. It was Monday. And Al Davis knew everything. So he's over to me and said, I can appreciate your passion, for the game and for this team. And I love that. He said, you can't do that. You can't talk to the coach like that, And I said, well, fuck it, I'll do something, make some damn sense. It's all fuck, we had something in Canada. I loved it. In New Orleans, we getting ready for the game. I'm in the zone. Petey, Dr. Rollerfield. Tell me that song. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at what do you think about it was somebody, what you, and I said, well, I told him what I thought about it, and really wasn't no, I don't remember who it was or what it was, but I told him what I thought. He said, fuck, he said, that's what the fuck you asked me what the fuck I think, you didn't ask me what you think. He stung up like a little cat, you're fucking crazy. And he stung up. And Dr. Williams sitting there like, he was cracking up. So he asked me, did he said, yeah, he did. I said, well, thank you.
All right, Jeff.
Did you ask me? Still trying to process that conversation.
I'll come back to you in a moment.
I forgot what you asked me. I'm sorry.
That's why we have these discussions. We look for moments like that. We look for moments like that.
We went back in town on that one.
Jeff, your Super Bowl victories, was it the post game? I want to ask you about the post game because you're so emotional and friendly. What was it like walking off the field to the locker room as a Super Bowl champ?
I couldn't believe it. The first one against Jerry, I couldn't believe we had won. We beat the Eagles in New Orleans in the Superdome, and it hadn't really hit me. I walked out there and the lights, I thought about all the stars, the movie stars, the people that were there, and I said, we just won the Super Bowl. And I said, I just couldn't believe it. It was just hard to fathom, but it was something that sunk in over time. And that's what I loved about it. It sunk in over time that we were the champions of the world. Let me tell you something. All the money in the world, it comes and goes. But when you become the champion, you become the champion of the world. They can never take that away. That killer, 3-time world champion. They can never take that away. We were the world champion, and we could not take that away because money comes and goes, and I was proud to be a part of that group.
Love that. So, back to you, Reggie. And Kenny, Super Bowl 18. Some consider that not only one of the greatest Raider teams of all time, but one of the top 5 teams ever. Willie mentioned the 85 Bears. That's a team on the Mount Rushmore. I don't think you can take them off. But when you go back to Super Bowl 18 in Tampa and Howie gets out of the cab with Lyle, they got to walk. Marcus left his MVP car in the parking lot, never picked it up. That sounded like a wild one. Walk me through, starting with you, Reggie, the Tampa Super Bowl 18.
Well, it wasn't his MVP car. It was a rental car. So we all got rental cars. So before the game, you're supposed to leave the rental car at the hotel and get on the bus or the cab. You leave the rental car there. So Marcus told us him and Otis jumps in the rental car and drives to the stadium. So they trying to get into the game and they didn't have a ticket or parking ticket. So, hey, he goes, well, we Marcus Allen and Otis. I don't care who you guys are. Y'all not getting in the parking space. So they went to another gate trying to get in on Marcus Allen, Otis McKinney, would let them in. So they had to park the car on the side of the street and they had walked to the locker room, get in the locker room and play the game. And all that happened, he wins MVP that night.
Incredible. And Kenny, take me through that legendary run and Cliff's running beside him and you're sitting there. That's another team you played earlier in the year, Washington, with a really important moment in that season. How'd you feel about them going into that game? Because it was over pretty early.
Well, we felt good about it. We had already beat the Redskins early in the season when Cliff had his 99-yard run, which is a Raider. I think that's still the longest pass reception in Raider history. But we knew we had a good team, and we knew that we could beat Washington. So going into that game, we were very confident. We didn't have the luxury of the curfews not being extended like it was in Super Bowl 15 because this was a bigger game. It was a lot more focused. But you got to also understand one thing. That was a year we physically moved to Los Angeles. 1983, we physically moved. 1982, we practiced in Oakland and moved to and played in LA. But we physically moved, and that was a big change. I think it brought the team a lot closer.
Jerry, what's your greatest moment as a player where you put your head on a pillow at night and say, that's when I was at my absolute best? A game, a play, what comes back to you?
When I think about that particular question, I think about when I was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're in a contract dispute, and the San Francisco 49ers had called me and said, Jerry, we just made a trade for you. So I had my bag packed, it was at the door, I was leaving on a Saturday. And, you know, the news people came by and I'm saying goodbye to everybody. That Friday night, Al Davis calls, and at the time my wife, she picked up the phone and she said a couple things and she had a look on her face and she hung up the phone. I said, who's that? What's going on? She said, that was Al Davis on the phone. And he said, tell Jerry, don't get on the fucking plane. I said, what? But we're gonna trade for him. So all of a sudden, I get a phone call from Coach Flores. Hey Jerry, Rob said, hey Jerry, this is Coach Flores. Coach Flores, you know how excited he gets. He was talking all, hey Jerry, how you doing? You know, all monotone, this and that. And he said, we just traded for you. And I said, Coach Flores, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. I said, are you as excited as I am about being a Raider? He said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because you sure didn't sound like it when you were talking to me on the damn phone, you know? So that was the beginning of it. But the day that I actually came to the Raiders and was at the facility in El Segundo, I'll never forget it. This is when I knew I really made it, even after 6 years with the Philadelphia Eagles. When I was there, and I'd go down and get a physical, went to Beverly Hills. You know how our doctors were in LA, in Rodeo Drive and shit, right? You know, they Beverly Hills, right? So I go there, and anyway, I get the physical done. I come back at the facility, and I'm waiting for the bus to take me over to the airport, back to the hotel. I'm sitting in the locker all by myself. I'm looking around the locker room. I'm looking at all the different names of my teammates and this and that, and there's nobody in there. It's just me, and I'm waiting. I'm sitting down, and I stood up, and I turned around, and I saw that helmet, and I put that helmet on, and I sat back down on that little gray stool, and the tears started running down my eyes. I said, thank you, Jesus, I finally made it. Wow. And I say that because I grew up in Santa Rosa, California. I've always been a Raider fan. I've always been a Raiders fan. And that right there, I mean, there was a lot of games. I had a lot of fun. We won some big games, this and that I played in the Super Bowl, lost against Kenny and them, and Lawman and JB. And these brothers, they always constantly reminded me, you know, sometimes I might get a text message at 3 o'clock in the morning, a picture of Kenny's Super Bowl ring. See what we got? Shit like that. But becoming a Raider was the biggest thing, and the fan appreciation. I said, man, we love y'all to death. We really do.
Absolutely. Hey, Killer, we need to go even back old school. We need a Stabler story. What was it like? What was the snake like? What was it like blocking for the snake and going out with him? Give me a snake story.
He was a snake.
No.
He was a snake. Well, everybody got their different opinions, their different stories. In those many, many games that, like I said, we should have won. Well, he damaged my career. We're playing Kansas City, Denver, one of those games, and I knocked my guy down, a little guy coming through. This was in 1978, the year after we went to the playoffs. And I said something to him. Wasn't nice, but it was true. And passing, he built up with the ball. And I said, God damn, Snake, why don't you throw the ball, get to something? Let's get that something, let's get out of here. So, we go, no, I'll tell you how to do my goddamn job. So we played a game, we were 7-1. We go through the rest of the season, I think we ended up with 8-8 or 9-7, so one game from the playoff. But after the season, he does an interview and he said, well, the reason I didn't talk to the press, because Henry Lawrence, our right offensive tackle, didn't play very well. He
said, I felt like I was in the middle of a freeway. That motherfucker. We were 7-1. The last 9 games of the season, my guy, you know, you hit the quarterback after he threw the ball up, didn't even touch it, didn't have a sack, and didn't even touch it. But then the chicken shit Raiders, staff, right, coaching staff. They said, so later on they do it. Yesterday, well, we did this, and Henry Lawrence graded out higher than any of the linemen. But you know what? Back then, players and people depended on what players said because they didn't have social media. They said, oh, Henry Lawrence is not a good player. But the bottom line is, he's in the Hall of Fame, and God bless him. And there are many that are in, but there are many that are not. We got Lester Hayes, Jack Tatum, Ray Chester, Rod Martin, and some of these guys here. But what is right? You know, I'm just thankful that I had a chance to come to the Raiders, because I had no ambitions of playing in the NFL. You know, I played baseball out in the tater field. You know, we throw taters when I was picking taters. And that was it. My first organized sport actually was soccer. And we were up on the season doing migrant farm work, and we were out on the football field. On the field, they didn't have football. It was 6th grade. And they had brought football out, and so I played sandlot, and so the soccer coach, they saw me out there playing, so they came and got me out of class in 6th grade to play with the varsity, the soccer team. I said, damn, you know, that was a long way from the Mater field.
Wow. Well,
I forgot that. What was your question? I didn't get your question. Love killer. Love killer.
You know I take pride in my show prep and prepping for this. I asked the Stabler question and I went back to a potato field and soccer.
Oh, Stabler.
We're good with that. We'll come back.
No, he was true. Stabler was a great player, and he was as good as he wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Hey, Killer, you forgot to tell me you were chasing gators too, huh?
Gators.
Gators.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next one. Jeff, to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, to you. What do these fans mean to you? Because they watched you not only play in big games, you lost some heartbreakers, then you win 2 Super Bowls. Give me a comment or two on what these fans meant who went through all of that. Some of them here went through all those ups and downs and finally got those Super Bowls.
That's right. You know, when we played in Oakland, the fans were so great that even if we lost, they said, don't worry, you'll get them next week. And we felt so bad that we had lost that game that we'd come back out there and play harder the next week for the fans. And our fans have always been great to us, and we love them to death. And one thing I know that there's at least 3 guys in here that I used to sign autographs at Pier 39 in San Francisco, and they brought their kids in. I think he was about 12 years old, and he saw me on the cruise. And he said, Jeff, I brought my son in, I'm on the cruise. And I said, yeah, your son. I said, how is he? He said, he's 25. I said, has it been that long? 25 years ago, I signed an autograph for his kid, and I let him wear my ring. So, you know, back in the days, I was pretty fast. So I didn't mind taking off that ring, let him put it on, because I could catch it. So I would put the ring on, and I let them hold on to him so they wouldn't run. And I used to do it all the time. And I let the kid wear my ring, and he showed me the picture. It's in this den wall. I said, how come you put me in the bedroom? He said, no, Jeff. And so he put me on this den wall from 25 years ago. His son's 25 years. I said, I appreciate you coming in and showing me that and telling me about it. But I'll tell you, we love our fans. My wife and I, we have a page. We sign autographs. We go to concerts, and we go to events every year. My biggest events is Fresno. I love Fresno. Bakersfield,
Fresno, Bakersfield,
Modesto, all through the Tri-Valley. The Raider fans are the best. Now let me tell you what happened. Lester Hayes and Cliff Branch, they started signing autographs. You know, we said, like, what we gonna do? Back in the day, you know, you didn't have a program where you could just go and get some money. You had to work for a living. So They said they were going to sign autographs, and every time they signed autographs, they would call me and say, Jeff, we're signing autographs here. I want you to go. And we did it for years. Cliff Branch, Lester Hayes started it. And to this day, Lester Hayes is still signing autographs all over California and even Texas.
He's the legend. The judge should be in the Hall of Fame. Kenny,
we're going to do that soon.
Kenny, back to you real quick on this one. You know, how did a team commute from Oakland to LA and deal with that schedule? You talked about the move down here. How did Coach Flores handle that? I can't imagine a coach in any sport ever doing what he did with the Oakland practice, the LA games, back and forth. How did you even manage that part of it?
It was tough. It was a transition. It was a big transition for us. But it was one of those things where, we had, a good equipment manager, Dick Romansky, and they were very good at keeping everything organized and stuff. They got a good organization. I think the head, the front office people, they did their job as well. So it made the transition on Fridays when we would practice. We'd practice all week, and then Friday we get on the plane and we go to Los Angeles and we play. Then we get after the game, we fly back into Oakland. So it was just, it just got to be part of the process.
All right, Killer, we got another one for you. We're not talking quarterback. I learned my lesson. Running back. Who was the best when you knew he was getting the ball, he was running to your side, was going to just follow you home for a first down or a touchdown? Who's that running back that you look back on all these running backs?
And he was on the Raiders. And he was a Raider.
That was kind of rare when he was running my side, you know what I mean? But actually, we had some great ones. Some great ones. Charlie Smith, Clarence Davis, Mark Van Egan. Mark Van Egan would hit the hole before you hit the guy. And Mark Van Egan couldn't run. He would hit and fall down. And so he'd fall down 10 yards. So when he finally learned how to run, they traded him or cut him. But then they brought Marcus in. Marcus was a beast. But Frank Hawkins was another beast. And I think that basically, okay, you got me up here. They totally underutilized what our potentials were. We had Frank Hawkins and Mark Van Egan. You had Marcus. You had Bo Jackson. Use them all. Use them all. And now you kick everybody's ass. What did you ask me?
You got it all. You got it all. That was your best one. You
didn't mention my name.
No, we had some great ones.
Thank you, Kelly. Wow. All right, Reggie Kinlaw.
Oh, wait a minute. I got the other one through. When they brought Kenny in, which he kind of got on my nerves, but what he did, Kenny had the biggest head. And so he ran in the back of me. I'm blocking. So I started calling him, calling him, telling him, well, Kenny, you had to get your ass out the way. So I had to start blocking better. But for all y'all out there, his nickname is Conehead. See what I'm talking about? But it was fun.
There you go. Reggie, we talked last night about how hard practice was back then, and now, as I said last night, if anybody caught it, let's hear it for Pete Carroll. Competition Pete. Competition Pete. This thing's about to change, and all respect to the other coaches, they all gave everything they had, but I asked you last night about how hard those practices were. 2-a-days in pads. Now there's rules, you can't do that. You only have 11 days, practice days, the entire year that you can be in pads. What was it like being in 2-a-days in pads against some of the greatest players on the other side of the ball?
Well, actually it started in mini camps and rookie camps. Off of Doolittle Road, the little practice field, my rookie year, it was intense. We had fights and we was just in shorts and in helmet. I remember running into Steve Sylvester. Oh man, we fought every day. Cause the guy couldn't block me, so he held me. I'm trying to make the team. I'm a rookie, I'm trying to make the team, and he's holding on me. And man, We must have to fight, what, maybe 2-3 times a day. So I'm coming out the locker room, and Art Shell and Gene Upshaw, they had that chair right by the door. So Art comes to me, he goes, when I'm walking through, he goes, you know what, you're in the wrong professional. You should be a damn boxer. Wow. I said, okay. And then next day I come in, he said, hey, you know what, I heard you took a cut and pay to come to play for the Raiders. But Santa Rosa, up in Santa Rosa, 112 degrees, in full pads, I mean, just going at it, all the temper, everybody's getting pissed off at each other. I seen the best fight of my life when it was John Matuzak and Phil,
Villapiano.
no, Phil, Big Phil, Phil Yard, Charles Phil Yard, 6'9". Oh man, I had the best seat in the house. Those two guys, and they both of them defensive players. That's how bad it was. They were fighting each other. It was real serious.
Love it. All right, we're back to our Q&A. This will be good. You got the legacy panel here. Let's raise a hand or two and try to get a question here. We'd love a few. There we go. We can probably hear you. We'll get that microphone over to you. Yeah, then we'll go to you next.
Raider Nation. So, who coined the phrase Soul Patrol?
We had Soul Patrol 1 and 2.
Defensive backs.
George Atkinson, Jack Tatum, Skip Thomas, and Willie Brown. Soul Patrol 1.
That was, the 76. Yeah, 76 defensive backs.
The defensive backs.
By the way, nice playing with those defensive backs. So getting to know those guys over the years. No doubt about it. Who's next? Okay, we'll get it over there. Soul Patrol. Soul Patrol.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. What you think about the player Art Shell becoming a coach for the Raiders? He's a player and also being a
Wow,
coach.
great question.
That was a great question.
Jeff,
I
we'll go
want
you
to
and
start
then
that
we'll
one
go
off
ahead.
because it all started when John Madden, I was there when John Madden first came in. He drafted me, brought me in. And John, you know, Al would call him in the mornings and he would get an ulcer. And the doctors told him, Big John, you're going to have to retire or you're going to die. So that's when Big John retired, and we didn't know who we were going to get. And we got Tom Flores, who was with the Raiders, and it's a wide receiver coach. And I'm going to tell you something. He made it all possible. And that's what it's all about with the guys.
And you know, the thing with Art Shell is, I played against Art Shell in Super Bowl 15 as a player. And the day he became, you know, I became a Raider, and now he was on the coaching staff. But when he became the head coach, it was something special when Art took over from Shanahan. When you got a player, a Super Bowl champion, a Hall of Famer, and he's your coach, there's something about that. I'll never forget this. The very first game Art Shell that we had was, I think it was a Thursday night or a Monday night game against the New York Jets. Remember that, JP? We went out and we won. I mean, we would have walked through hell and high water to make sure that we won that football game because it meant so much to everybody. So, you know, Art, I've always loved Art. He always called me Mr. Robinson all the time. I don't know why. I said, man, why do you call me Mr. Robinson? You older than my ass. What's the deal? And he just said, you know what, I have a lot of respect for you. And I tell you what, that's the type of coach that Art Shell was. I mean, that was my experience with him.
Killa, how proud were you when Art became a head coach, the first African-American head coach in the history of the NFL and your longtime teammate?
You might want, which version you want?
I
Good version.
got the 5-minute
I
warning
think-
over
I
here.
think-
We got a 2-minute warning. We didn't get the 5. We got a 2-minute warning. So there you
No,
go.
I think that Art was perfect, great material for head coach. I think the obstacles that he had to face and most of the others is things had to be a certain way. You want a certain thing, but Art, I was very proud that he was. I was disappointed in myself when they cut me and they called me to come back, and I didn't come back because I would have had a chance to play under him as head coach. But Art was a phenomenal, and Art came down to Florida A&M after they drafted me and trained me, showed me, see, this is how the Raiders do it. And before that, when they drafted me, they flew me out. Coach Matt, you remember that Miller Lite commercial? Well, I helped him create that. When he called me in, he pulls me in the restaurant, it was closed. He said, hey, where did you learn to class protect like that? You look like you've been coached. I looked at him, I said, shit, my coach stuff. He said, oh, you're going to be a great player. I said, well, damn. I didn't know what all that meant, but we connected. He was like a daddy, my other daddy. I mean,
Awesome.
Coach, you guys get my heart.
We got time for one more question. Right over here, the gentleman's been asking. Go ahead. Right down here, stand up for a second so they can find the microphone.
Thank you. I have several questions. First one is, I never liked the Pastorini.
We have one.
We got one.
I never liked the Pastorini trade. And what was the feeling of the team when Pastorini came along?
That's a good Kenny question. We talked about that.
I played in Houston with Pastorini in '79, and at the end of the season, February, the trade between Kenny Stabler and Pastorini came about. 4 months later, I get traded to the Raiders for Jack Tatum. So for me, I played with Dan, but I was a rookie there, so he didn't have nothing. You know, he never talked to me, didn't speak to me. And now I'm the starting halfback for the Oakland Raiders, and he's now my quarterback. Great quarterback, excellent quarterback. But I'm glad that Jim got a chance to play as well.
So part two of the question, I was in the stadium the day he broke his leg. I have to admit, I was not disappointed, but I didn't realize that Pastorini, that Plunkett would be so great.
Yeah.
And what was the feeling of the team when Plunkett had to take over? Was there doubt, or was
No, there was no doubt of it whatsoever. No. I mean, Jim had been beat up. I mean, he went on to New England. He got beat up in New England. He was running for his life in New England. He went to Kansas. He went to San Francisco, and then he came to the Raiders. Now he's playing backup, and this is a perfect opportunity. It's a golden. I mean, it's a great story because you know he gets to come off the bench, come in under those circumstances, and play. And he played well. And
Absolutely.
and that's the thing about this game. When you get that opportunity, you better take advantage of it. Because it's not gonna come your way every time.
That's what George Blandon told Stabler when you get your chance, do your deal, because you're not going to get a second chance. Another part of the question: how did you feel when you played Kenny in the Oakland Coliseum in the playoffs that year?
I loved it because hell, I was with the Houston Oilers the year before, and they didn't. You know, I carried the ball 3 times for 9 yards with Houston Oilers. I was all pro the first year with the Raiders. I had the longest touchdown reception in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, it was a
I had
record
the
for a long
longest run in
time.
Raider history behind Arshell. It wasn't behind this guy.
So, gentlemen, thank you. Hey, everybody get their phones out. Gentlemen, if you could all stand so everyone can get a great photo op with these legendary Raider legends. Let's hear it for our Super Bowl legacy panel.
That's why he had that cone head.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to remind you again, 12:30 for the red group, 1:30 for the yellow group, and tonight's dinner, the First Fan Alumni Dinner is tonight. It's game day attire. On behalf of Silver and Black Productions, our whole team here with the Raider fan crews, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Go Raiders.
Hey, give my water.
This door right here.